Oh, hey guys, let's learn about materials. All right, I'm so excited about this video because I'm going to explain to you one of the most challenging things that I had to go through, and I'm going to hopefully make it way easier for you guys so that you don't have to go through the pain that I did. Seriously, when I was learning how to do materials back in the day, it was awful. It was kind of the worst thing ever, and it was so bad that I vowed to never let anyone go through that experience again if I could help it. So keeping with that promise, I'm actually giving you guys the Uber material that we created for this class. It's the shader or the material that we use for all of the particles that you see here and all the other particles in the class. So that's linked in the description, along with a link to the class itself, of course. If you guys want to check that out, go right ahead. So I'm just going to dive right into it. If we go into parent materials, is this here, the VFX Uber mat. Now, you'll remember I said Uber shader. Let me put this here. I said Uber shader, Uber material. It's kind of the same thing. They're not exactly the same thing, but for the purposes of an introduction video, I think it's fine to just call them the same thing. All right, so we have three options here, and when you mouse over them, you get a little tooltip that pops up. My tooltip is not showing up because of my recording software. Sorry about that. But you'll notice when you mouse over emissive color, it says controls which parts of your material will appear to glow. That's not exactly entirely accurate. It's more of just like, think of this as like the color that your material emits. So that's why it's emissive, right? This is not the color that it is and that light, how light interacts with it. Actually, this is an unlit material. If you look over here, it says unlit. So we're not concerned at all about like lighting and all that kind of stuff when we're working with this Uber shader. I've eliminated that factor so that you guys don't have to worry about it. Just keeping it as simple as possible. Opacity is how transparent it is at any given point. And then world position offset is how bumpy it is, like the little vertices on the mesh, how much they kind of wiggle and wobble. So opacity and world position offset will be like white to black values, just kind of to determine like how much it's opaque or how much it offsets out away from the basic resting position. And the emissive color is going to be red, green, and blue. So it's going to be the full color spectrum in emissive color and then grayscale in the others. Okay, so let's check this thing out. If we zoom out, there we go. Yeah, there's the Uber shader. Whoa, it's so big. Okay, don't worry about it. We've already done the hard part. Creating this thing was a task that was very collaborative between myself, David Shevlin, Luke Mason, and we got some great notes after we posted the previous version of this video, which you guys may have seen. We got some great notes from Yoeri-Luos-Vleer. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. He's awesome. I'm going to also link his channel in the description because he's got great educational content for effects. So the first thing I got to say, it's just a bit of a caveat. This shader is built so that it's easy for you guys to learn. It is not built to be ready for production. And that's kind of a give and take that we found. We made it so that you can use it easily. You can kind of run through it and understand how everything works fairly easily. But what you can't do is just pipe it into your mobile game and expect it to just run and be fully efficient. That's a discussion for another day. We are looking into creating an optimized version of all these assets for you guys to understand how optimization works, but that's coming later. For now, we're just going to focus on what materials even are and how they work. Okay, so all of these little boxes are commented. You can see here, we got nice comments. And then even on these little nodes, they have comments as well. And I'll show you what that gets us. So if I come over here to the Uber shader, I can right click on it and I can click create material instance. All right, doesn't matter what we name it for now. We'll just leave it as is. If you double click on that, you'll notice that it is significantly simpler. And over here, there's like a little flat plane on my other side. If you click on that, it disappears because what it does by default is faces away from the camera for some reason. I don't know. So if you hold Alt and drag to the side, you'll see, there it is. So this is the default settings for the material. You can see here, it's only like, what is that? Maybe 10 options. Whereas obviously in here, there's a lot more than 10 things going on. And that's because of static switches. Now, static switches are these little nodes here. They're kind of like aqua colored. Every time you see one of those with like a true false coming into it, each one of these creates a little checkbox. It's like, do you want to turn this on? And if you turn it on, then more options appear for you. It also does a little compiling shaders thing, which is why it turned gray. It's counting down off off the camera. So if you ever have like full gray materials everywhere, don't worry about it. That's just compiling shaders, and you just gotta wait. If it's over 1,000, then you might need to wait a while. But usually when you're just changing these things up, it's not gonna be too bad for you. Okay, so we can come in and edit all these. I'll get to those in a minute. And everything in here has, like I say, so these green ones are parameters. And so parameters show up as these little options. So like I want to use this parameter, right? And then you can turn it on and then change it to your heart's content. Now, if you mouse over these parameters, if you've downloaded the Uber material to use at home, you can see little tooltips. And again, they're not showing up here because of my recording software. But the nice thing about this is we did as much documentation built into it as we can to just make it super discoverable for you guys. So you can just mouse over and see like, oh, okay, so text 1 offset U, it's expecting -1 to 1. Okay, so you know the kinds of values to put in here, like 0.5 would be good or something like that. And it repositions left to right. Okay, so let's see, if I do 0.5, it'll position it over to the side. And then if I mouse over the text 1 clamp, it says if turned on, the texture will no longer tile. So right now, because it went over this way, it wrapped back around on this side. So if I check the clamp button, think a little bit, because that's another switch that I just turned on. So it's basically what's happening behind the scenes is it's compiling a whole new shader. So here we go. Now it doesn't tile. So you can turn that off and on. And now it has like the 2 versions stored in memory. So it's pretty quick to toggle it now. So that's a lot of fun. Let's see here. We can come in here and we can do animated UVs. That's pretty interesting. So when you check animated UVs, it opens up twice as many options. And it's 0 and 1 for each of the different properties that we saw before. So the difference here is that it animates whatever you do from time equals 0 in the particle to time equals 100% in the particle. So it will basically, you can like change the position over time. You can change the scale over time. You can change the pan speed over time. These ones kind of behave weird, just giving you a heads up. We never really got to the bottom of why. But when you animate and interpolate pan speed over time, it does like weird behaviors. It's cool because you can get it to move really, really fast and then like slow way down towards the end of the particle life, stuff like that. But the numbers that you put in are not necessarily what you would expect. And it's kind of funny because I ran into the same thing on the proprietary engine that we use on League of Legends. It has a similar functionality like pan speed over life. And I don't know, that was weird too. So there's something going on behind the scenes with shader math that is beyond me. It's above my pay grade. Okay, so all these are cool. You can, of course, like turn this back off. You can turn on texture 2. And what this will do is multiply these 2 together. I'm just going to reset this for now. So it multiplies whatever you put in here with whatever you put in here. If you want to change the textures, by the way, you can just check these boxes. And so now we have like this noisy field. And now if we pan that, again, waiting for shaders to compile, it's doing about 76 compilations now that I've got these 2 turned on. And then I come into offset V and I pan that, it'll do this cool thing. And so you can start to see how you get awesome like shimmery sorts of fire and all that kind of stuff going on. And then there we go. Got our little VFX Apprentice logo. I made a noise texture out of the logo. It's kind of cool. That'll be included in the file as well. All right, what else is included? Oh yeah, so with the free Uber material download, which again is just so that you guys can have all the pain and horrendousness of creating materials from scratch taken away. I want you guys to just dive in and start making cool effects and not worry too much about material math right out of the gate, unless you love materials and creating those. And that's awesome. More power to you. Just me coming from a more artistic background, I really struggled with that. And I feel like the best way for me to learn is analyzing assets that other people have created and just kind of using them and getting used to them and seeing what they can do. And then that translates over to awesomeness, and I can do really cool stuff later on. And then eventually make my own Uber material like we did here. Okay, so, let me get my bearings. Let's go. Extra fire. Okay, so this is going to be included as well. And you can see it over here. There we go. So this fire was created by the illustrious Justin Peterson. Really cool guy. Highly recommend checking out his work. If I can get my camera to behave. Yeah, so he did like this little stylized torch fire, and you guys are going to get this. This uses the Uber material. We had to kind of retrofit what he had done to now work with the updated shader, but this is essentially his work just repurposed. Okay, cool. So a lot going on in here. We start out with the back glow. If we just hit required and then double click on that, we can see it here. There we go. And basically, it's the same as the basic version, except it also uses depth fade. There we go. So depth fade, you might wonder, is found right here in the Uber material. Fades out the particles as the edge gets closer to objects behind it and or intersects with them. All right, so that's depth fade. And it's pretty straightforward how it's wired up. You know, it comes in here, and if depth fade is turned on, we will do this business in here, passing on through. And if it's turned off, then we just pipe through whatever was in there before. So yeah, that's depth fade. What we see here is with the depth fade, whoa, you can see that little card, right? It's like a camera facing card with a fuzzball on it, and it's nice and soft along the bottom, right? But then if we come over into our material instance and we turn that business off, save that, then we get this crispy edge at the bottom. So you can kind of see it's shown up all right. Yeah, you can see like this hard edge. So a lot of times you want like a glow, but you want it to just be soft on the ground. Then depth fade is for you. That's a great way to use it, so you avoid these sorts of collisions. Turn that back on so don't ruin Justin's work. Okay, so let's see what else we got. We got some wisps here. This is pretty straightforward. This is just a fuzzy ball with a multiplied texture scrolling through it. So it's got this going on, and then you can just kind of see, man, I gotta switch all these to cards. Okay, see it there. And it's just kind of doing this business, right? It's just scrolling a soft noise through a soft ball. And that's sort of the result that we get there. Pretty straightforward stuff. What else have we got? Let's go on a learning adventure together. Okay, there that is. Oh, right here. All right, so next we come to sub-image index, and that's this green component here. You can find that down through sub-UV, sub-image index. Whoa, it's like behind my chair. Yeah, it's not really showing up very well. You can kind of see it at the very bottom. All right. So what this is a half of, and this is hard to remember, but important to remember. The sub-image index component is required if you want to get a sprite sheet like this. So I'll open up my sprite sheet. So this is 4 different flames, right? That are all like really nice and transparent. That's here, this texture in the material. And this other one is just noise. It's like fiery noise, right? So we want to get this sprite sheet to just play a random one of those 4. And so we do that with sub-image index But also in required, you need to set up sub UV right here. You need to say random and then 2x2. And if you were going to do a flip book that's like a sequential 4x4, you would say linear, and then you would change this to 4x4. And in the class, I'll just show you real quick. In the class, we have all kinds of different flip books. I've included these just as a bonus. You guys can play around with these. These are from my YouTube channel. You may have seen me create a bunch of them, and some other extras like this one here. This is like a swipey magic strike kind of thing. So you can have fun with those assets, making flip books of your own using sub UV. Now, sometimes you'll be doing a flip book and you need it to work on a mesh. And for that, we have not set up the material to handle that because of reasons. This was pointed out to me later. There actually is a way to create flip books on meshes using sub UV, the same way in the particle system, but you have to use this sub UV texture instead of regular texture nodes. And when you do that, you can't pipe anything into the UVs. And for those of you who don't know tons about materials, you'll be lost at what that even is. Don't worry, it's fine. For those of you that do know, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. The reason why we didn't go with this was because we like all these UV controls over here, all the different like scales and pans and all that other goodness. And so because we really enjoyed that, we went ahead and added the flipbook controls right here, which works really great for meshes. Now, this is one of those instances where for your project, this material might not be the best for you. Again, consult your local engineer and ask them, hey, should we, is it more efficient to use sub UV for our project, or should we use flipbook for our project? And it's really up to you. So if I wanted to use flipbook, I would just come into here and I would just check use flipbook, right? And then it opens up how many rows and columns, and I'm good to go. Once you've punched that in, it'll just play through the entire flipbook over the lifetime of your particle. I just messed everything up. Oh crap. Let's see. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, it kind of, it thought I wanted to do something else, but I didn't. That's all good. It's gonna work just fine. Why is that all checked? I don't want this to pan. There we go. Okay, it works. All right. Now, let's see. We've done sub UV. Set that up. Oh, I didn't actually talk about subimage index. Okay, so in subimage index, PS, inval equals 0, outval equals 1. So that's 0 to 1 lifetime, like 0% to 100% of the particle's life. Wait. No, I think that's like probability. I don't know. Usually it's like particle life. In this instance, it's like a range of 0 to 100. Anyway, the outval is 0 to 3, and that's talking about the frames. So there's going to be 4 different frames. Frame number 1 is called 0, and then that's in the top left. And then frame 2 is called 1, that's in the top right. And then 2, 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. You get the idea. It's base 0. If you're familiar with like, different situations in math where you start counting at 0 versus counting from 1, that's what we are looking at in here. All right. So that explains it. So if I had a 16 frame flipbook, for instance, I would say 0 to 15. If I have 16 frame flipbook, yeah, 0 to 15 would be the numbers in here, not 1 to 16. That would be wrong. It'll give you like a little weird hitch at the end because it's like trying to calculate, wait, it told me there would be 16 frames, or it told me there'd be 17 frames, but there's only 16. And so it does weird things with that. Anyway, there you go. That is subimage index. Also, it's fun because you can like, this is now a curve, and I think you can actually like transition it. If it's a linear blend, I think you can actually like interpolate, and that it like sort of fills in between the flipbook frames really nicely. That won't work as well with some of these more crisp shaped ones. But if you had like a softer flipbook with like lots of high fidelity, Unreal will be able to interpolate really nicely for you and figure that. You're probably wondering what interpolate means. Basically, it fills in the frames, so it increases the frame rate of an animation for you. It's pretty neat. All right, so we got these flashes going on over here. Let's check out this guy. If we click on it in the world and then double click on it on the icon here, we can go inside and see how our dissolve functionality works. Now, dissolve is really neat. It basically, if I slow this down, okay, yeah. So there we go. We can see these like burst shapes flying out, and they are sort of eating away. Num, 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 num. If we double click in here, we can see what the dissolve map looks like. We go over in the class how this is painted and how we create these kinds of cool dissolve-y shapes. And what's essentially happening is it goes from black to white in order. So it'll start eating away the black values until it finishes off with the white values last. And you can change how it dissolves in here. I should probably close up these because that's like a lot of stuff. You can change how it dissolves with the alpha channel. So particle alpha in the Uber shader right here, this is particle alpha, will drive how much it dissolves. So here's the dissolve map. By default, it's this texture. You can, I've changed it in the material instance to be a different texture. But yeah, so that'll come over here. I can choose whether I use the color channel or the alpha channel from it. So that's kind of nice and flexible. You can pick which one you want to use. I think I'm using the alpha channel of the color. Yeah, because let's see. Oh, that's not my dissolving one. Let's see. Oh, yeah, use color channel is checked. Okay, so yeah, this one doesn't need an alpha channel, which you can see it has no alpha. So nothing changes when I do alpha. So it's just going to use the color channel there, which is pretty cool by default. And then if I checked this and unchecked it, it would break. Whoops. Okay, so we'll just leave that toggled on. Okay. So yeah, so it's going to use that, and then it's going to basically say whatever the particle value is, it's going to subtract that from here. So if it's a full 1, everything's going to be dissolved. If it's 0, nothing will be dissolved, and then it's going to kind of move from 0 up to 1 until it eats away everything. Nom, nom, nom. And that, you can see, is what's happening. So if I go to color over life, oh boy, I broke stuff. Guys, don't be like me. Don't break stuff. I think I need to now leave these both checked. Now that I've opened Pandora's box there, I have to check them both. Yeah, okay, that works. All right, now we have some color information here. You noticed it was turning blue. That's kind of a remnant of something because this was left over from another particle system. So it has these colors that you never see because it's dissolving away before it reaches these. But you could change all that. If I come over here into my graph editor, turn that on, I can uncheck the color right here and then fit my alpha curve. So you see it's not dissolving at all. There's 0, and then it's dissolving 100% up here. And now if I turn this like so, we're going to start seeing more of those colors because it's waiting to dissolve until the very end when the colors are shifting. So it's kind of a fun effect. You can like animate and time out your different colors with the different dissolves and all that. And I'm going to hit undo because I just totally ruined this effect. Okay, there we go. So that is dissolve in a nutshell. Let's see, what else do we want to go over? What about Vertex Offset? I mentioned that before. Let's find a fun example of Vertex Offset and how that can work for us. So over here, we've got this particle system. I'm going to go ahead and close these. All right, so you can see when I click on the outline, it's like really, really bumpy, like whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, it's not going to show up down here. I have to go inside of it. Okay. The mesh that I'm using for this, because it is a three-dimensional mesh, is this guy, mushroom ring. So obviously not super bumpy, right? If we look at the UVs, we can see it's got a ton of geometry to it. It's got all these faces. I can also, I can also just come on up and just, yeah. Sorry, never mind. I just spaced out. Okay, so it's got a ton of geometry on here, right? All these little faces. The reason why it needs a ton of geometry is because I'm going to push all that geometry all over the place. So if I come into required, double click there, mouse around. Oh, it's not showing up because I think it's inside of. Oh, that's right. It has a dissolve turned on. So I'm just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to turn off the dissolve because remember by default, it's fully dissolved. In other words, it's like fully gone because it's assuming that I'm passing in a 1 and that 1 would just delete the whole thing. Okay, so here's this guy. Now I want to see it on my ring, so I can click on the ring, hit browse, and then come on over here and then hit the teapot. See in the bottom right, I'm a little teapot. Boom. So what that does is it sets the teapot as the whatever, it doesn't set the teapot. It sets whatever mesh you have selected as the preview mesh here for your material, which is great because now we can see what's going on. The Vertex Offset doesn't do anything in here though. It only does stuff in the particle system itself. So the reason for that is that it uses a dynamic parameter, and dynamic parameters show up in the particle system. So if you look over here, this is control how far vertices are pushed, either with a custom pair of textures or the alpha channel. Animate its strength with a control inside the particle system. That's what I was saying before. Dynamic parameter, vertex offset mult. Okay, so right here we have the dynamic parameter. It says vertex offset mult. And if we come to the particle system itself, we see this little dynamic thing here. Super important note. First off, to add one of these, you just go to parameter, dynamic, right? And then once you've loaded it in, you always need to right click on it and say refresh, because the particle system doesn't always know to check with the material and say, hey man, what you got going on over there with the dynamic parameters? And so you need to tell it to check with the material and say, okay, what's the dynamic parameter setup that's going on? Once you do that, all of this will populate with what you need. If this is showing up blank for you, that's why you need to hit refresh. Okay, so in dynamic, we see vertex offset mults. Oftentimes these will be like minimized, like 0 and 1. So just watch out for that. We've got 3 elements in this case, and it's just saying, cool, so at time equals 0, offset by 100, at time equals 0.3, offset by 40, and at time equals 1, do 50. So there you go. It's doing all that. Whoa, I broke something. Oh, I turned off the dissolve. Remember that? Okay, let's see. Let's just see this while I have the dissolve turned off because I wanted to show you guys what's going on. And let's just spawn a little bit. Is there a burst on this? No, there's no burst. So let's do the rate scale at 1. So it just does 1 per second. And it should come any minute now. Any minute. And we're just going to see a bumpy torus mesh. Oh, is it not? I see what happened. Probably need to do something like 5 because probably the emitter lifetime is super short. Yeah, it's only 0.35. Okay, there we go. So 1 per second. It doesn't go for a full second, and so it can't even spawn 1. If that makes sense. So I have to like do it something above 1. Probably 3 would have been perfect. Let's find out. There it is. Okay, so you can see it's making it all bumpy and wavy, which you could see before, of course, too. All right, change that back to 20. Change this back to 100%. There we go. And then when we turn back on dissolve, it'll actually look good once again, because it kind of needs that dissolviness to do its thing. And because the UVs are laid out on a torus, by default, the UVs wrap around the donut. When you scroll those UVs, it sort of like wraps in on itself. It's pretty sweet, and it has a nice motion to it. It's a pretty cheap trick that we like to use all the time. And you get this nice motion of these like licky bits kind of like radiating up and out. And that technique is used over here on our awesome fieriness at the base, and also up high up on the plume. So the plume coming up is a different shaped mesh. It's just basically a squashed sphere. And then at the base, you can see it has that sort of licky, rotatey bits. Over here, we've got some nice vertex offset as well as those things shimmer around. We got some soft particles too, because a lot of these are really close to the ground and we didn't want them to clip. So some of those interior glows and things are soft. The wisps that kind of go around could be a little softer. Right now they're clipping pretty hard to that ground, so we could probably make that better. Here we've got lots of sub-UV going on. So the bits flying out that dissolve, you saw those earlier. That's a really fun element, and also they're on a random card. And then we've got flipbook elements happening as they come down. Also, there's like meshes in there as well that have flipbooks on them. So that's pretty neat. And then, of course, we've got like dissolve on this. And spoiler alert, there's another material in the class. So this material here is a masked material. So that's different from the translucent material that we have for the Uber shader, because it's basically off or on. You can see like those goo bits that fly up that are really opaque are like really crisp and they dissolve away. And they also have like this lighting on them. So they have like highlights that are caught in the light. And that's because we have a little lighting setup for that. And that's explained more in the class of how we do lit particles like this. It's not actually lit in the environment. It's lit in its own shader. So it's kind of a fake lighting, but it's pretty cool stuff what David Shevlin was able to set up there. And then the transparent wisps that are around it are, of course, the Uber shader as well. So it's kind of a mixture of Uber shader and then its own GUI shader, and it uses all kinds of fun trickery. Okay, so that's materials in a nutshell. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned some cool stuff. Definitely check out the class for sure, just to avoid all the terrible pain that I went through. Check out that material. It's going to get you started in a good way. If you guys are getting lost with it still, or like have more questions about how it works or what's in the class, feel free to hit me up in the comments. You can look me up on Twitter as well. I'm around and I'm here to help. So, all right, I'll catch you guys in the next video.